Shalom, this is Rabbi Mark Hillel Kunis and my taste of Torah for Parshat Devarim 5780. Today is Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av, the beginning of the Jewish month of Av. Today begins a mourning period of 9 days, culminating in Tisha B'Av, the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. It's the day in which every great tragedy that ever happened to the Jewish people occurred or had its roots in something that occurred on that day. The greatest tragedy of all, of course, was the Holocaust. And the decree to establish the Warsaw Ghetto was adopted on Tisha B'Av, 1941. And the relocation to the concentration camps began a year later on Tisha B'Av, 1942. It's almost 75 years now since the end of World War II, where 6 million Jewish souls were cruelly torn from this world. Is it time? Can we forgive the Germans? Let me share 2 Holocaust stories with you that try to answer this question. Rabbi Jack Siegel tells the story of Eva Kor. Eva was a 10-year-old twin when she and her sister Miriam were taken to Auschwitz, where the evil Dr. Mengele experimented on them. The experiments were painful and unpleasant, but they enabled them to survive because all the other children their age who were not twins were immediately taken to the gas chambers and the crematorium. In 1995, at the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, she stood by the ruins of the gas chambers with a former Nazi doctor who had worked with Mengele on those twin experiments, and she read a document of forgiveness to forgive the Nazis, and she signed it. She said, "The time has come for us to forgive the Nazis. More than half a century has gone by since this atrocity has occurred. We must forgive them so that we will be able to talk to each other." Wow. I don't know if I could have done that. She was a survivor. But was she right in offering forgiveness? Another approach comes from Simon Wiesenthal in his classic book, The Sunflower, where he tells the story of the time he was in a concentration camp and taken to the bedside of a mortally wounded SS officer who wanted to speak to a Jew. He writes, "The Nazi confessed that he shot a Jewish father and mother and their young child. The Nazi wanted the Jew, me," he writes, "to forgive them so that he, the Nazi, could die in peace. He sat up and he put his hands together as if to pray. I want to die in peace, so I need..." Well, I saw that he could not get his words past his lips, Wiesenthal writes, but I was in no mood to help him. I kept silent. Wiesenthal then writes, "Here lay a man who wanted to die in peace, but he could not because the memory of his terrible crime gave him no rest. I stood up," Wiesenthal says, "looked in his direction. I made up my mind, and without a word, I left." Elie Wiesel often said, "Only the dead can forgive." Who can forgive on behalf of the 6 million Jews the Nazis viciously slaughtered? "So no," said Elie Wiesel, "Simon Wiesenthal could not offer forgiveness to that guard. That could only be given by his victims." So who is right? Eva Kor or Simon Wiesenthal? Perhaps in a sense, they are both right. Yes, as Elie Wiesel puts it, only the victims can really forgive. But as Eva Kor would have it, we cannot continue to hold guilty future generations. In the Torah a few weeks ago, we read about Korach, who rebelled against God and Moses, and he, along with his followers, were then killed. But the Torah then tells us something very strange. Uvenei Korach lo metu. The children of Korach did not die. They were not punished because they separated themselves from their father and his evil deeds. How fair is it for future generations to bear the sins of their fathers if they have changed their ways? Yes, we mourn on these 9 days the atrocities thrown upon the Jews at this time of the year by the Babylonians, the Romans, the Crusaders, the English, the French, the Spanish, the Cossacks, and of course the Germans. We mourn, but we don't hold their children accountable. And the most remarkable thing of all is that we have not become bitter through it all. After each tragedy, we somehow picked up the pieces again, began again, built new lives, and in fact, celebrated life. The purpose of these 9 days is not to explain our suffering, but to allow us to relive it, to re-experience it, to take it in each year so that the pain remains an immediate and powerful force in our lives, so that we do everything we can to make sure that never again will such things happen to us or to anyone else. Never again. Have a great Shabbos.